All right. Um, and this way it gives you guys a resource to go back to. I know that
Yeah,
I sent you the link to the Google Drive folder. I gave you guys the link to the YouTube channel that I put together.
correct.
So through both of those, Michael, you've got resources that you can come back to later on. So like tonight, we're going to take a look at just some of the tools
Okay.
that are really helpful, and some tools that people don't really think about. And so, later on in the class, you're like, hey, we were talking about X, Y, and Z. Well, it gives you the resource to go back to it.
Okay.
The other thing is that I invite all of my students to feel free to add to the Google Drives.
Okay.
Like in doing your research, you come across a really great, reference, upload it. Right. I mean, that way it becomes a repository for all of us moving forward.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
Okay.
uh, all right. So let me see if I can get my other camera to come on. You got all your tools from
I
the
did, Doc.
class? Okay. All right. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. No. So, all right. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Once I share my screen, I won't be able to really see the Zoom window.
Okay.
Um, so if you have questions, don't raise your hand, just spit it out.
Okay.
Um, this is really and truly for us uh, to get to learn together.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Come on. Fine.
I kind of like that camera.
Yeah, it's an IPVO, and typically it's considered a document camera.
Okay.
But the interface with it is really nice. So the software allows you to, you can record, you can take pictures, I can even annotate on here if I wanted to.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Um, so as like a recording tool, watching a lot of the videos I have, like the detailed strips.
Yeah.
So many people have issues with how they're doing the recording. Trying to get the camera in the right angle, and you're trying to do it on your phone and all that kind of stuff. So IPEVO, um, and I'll take a picture of it and you know share it with you guys. But I used to teach middle school, and so I used it, in my middle school classroom.
Like a
Uh,
new age projector.
yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I grew up with the overheads, which always got exciting when the bulbs blew up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the new ones, no, no, no. We're not going to blow up the bulbs and scare the kiddos. We might
Then the
have,
TV gets rolled into the classroom.
right? Yeah, if we blow up the projector now, we might have to pay for um, therapy.
Yeah.
So, let me start with a lubricant that I use. Um, so, um, there are two predominant lubricants I use. All right. Let's see if I can get that.
Okay.
All right. So, Frog Lube is a paste. And what I like about it, not that I'm super worried about the environment, but it is environmentally friendly.
Okay.
It has a pleasing minty odor. Um,
Nice.
but what's nice is because it's a paste, you can put it where you want it, and then your body heat actually melts.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of times if I have internal springs that I want to get lubricated and I want them to stay lubricated, I'll actually just take the spring and stick it in there and pull it back out again.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Now you want to be cautious, on like the AR. I didn't like that at all. Like on the AR, on some of those smaller springs, it'll gum up a little bit if you don't kind of work it in. Like the detent springs, I don't use it on
Yeah.
the detent springs. They're too small. But I really like it on hammer components. On 1911s, I like it on the sear disconnector, all of those pieces. So frog lube is one of the things that I use. Um,
Okay.
the other one is a product called Balistol.
I've heard
Uh,
of that.
yeah, Balstol. Um, and with Balistol, you mix it 50-50 with water. The water, it emulsifies, and the water simply acts as a carrier.
Okay.
So when you spray it, try not to make a super mess. So the water carries the oil, but the oil is what hits the surface first, right?
Okay.
Now, Balistol was developed in 1904 by the German military for use on wood, metal, leather, small cuts and abrasions. I mean, it's kind of like the Old West snake oil.
Yeah.
Uh, and what I like about it um, is it's slightly base. So when you shoot, you end up with all that carbon, right?
Yeah.
That carbon's acidic. Now they
Okay.
they say, oh, it's non-corrosive ammo. Sure, it is. If you spend any time cleaning an M16, you know that crap's corrosive and it's a pain to deal with.
Yep.
Um, so what's nice about the Ballistol being slightly base is that it automatically neutralizes any of the acidity that you might have inside of the you know um, residue that gets left behind when you go and shoot.
Okay.
If you do black powder, you use it 100%. You don't dilute it with anything,
Okay.
um, and it literally just sucks the black powder residue completely out of the gun.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
I've got an open top black powder revolver. I use frog lube on the center pin, right? So I put frog lube on the center pin. I go and I shoot it. Well, when I go to clean it, I take off the cylinder, I take a rag, and I just wipe that center pin, and the center pin comes out perfectly clean.
Okay.
So, um, you know, I, not that I don't like break free. I mean, hell, in the military, I grew up with break free.
Yeah.
But I found those two products work really well. Now, um, with the Ballistol, you can, I don't just because it's expensive, but you can actually run Ballistol in your sonic cleaner. So
Okay.
when you take your gun apart, put it in the sonic cleaner with the Ballistol, well, now you're lubricating everything at the same time. You're breaking all the stuff off.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
as expensive as Ballistol is, um, I use Simple Green in my sonic cleaner
I don't know if
because
I can smell that stuff again.
well, man, I can go to Lowe's and I can buy a gallon of Simple Green for
Yeah.
pennies as compared to buying the 1 quart bottle of Hornady gun scrub.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I got you. I got
so I always try and wherever we can save a couple of dollars,
you. Hmm.
make a difference in the world. All right. So those are two lubricants. Now in the kit that you got, um, you should have received a set of files.
Correct.
Now you have both needle files and the full size files. I'm not pulling out the full size files.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Um, this week is really focused on introducing your firearm that you're going to disassemble, talk about, the research that you're doing, begin that plan process. Next week, we're going to get into talking about files and stones. All
Okay.
right. Um, with files, the big thing is you only use them one direction.
Okay.
Most people make a mistake with their file
And go back and forth.
going back and forth,
Yeah.
right? It's away from you, pick up, and then away from you.
Okay.
Um, reason for that is you're not going to gum up the teeth, right?
Hmm.
Now, cleaning the teeth on the needle files are a real pain.
I
Um,
can imagine. These are pretty fun.
yeah, Harbor Freight sells a block of what looks like gum rubber, like a big eraser, basically.
Okay.
That's used to clean up or redress a sanding belt. So if you're using a belt sander and it's not sanding, you take this block of rubber and you rub it up against, you just hold it up against it, and it takes all of the dust
Build
that's
up and
and just takes it straight out.
okay.
So so that also works on your files.
Oh,
So you can use that with the files again, only one direction, right?
okay.
And that'll help pull it out. On the bigger files that you have, wire brushes work really well on those trying to get that stuff out. And I'm talking about like the hand used wire brushes, not the the drill powered wire
It always
brushes.
had power to it. Yeah.
Yeah, always make it faster.
Yeah.
Uh, but so with the files, we're going to look at files and their uses, different types of files, and we're also going to take a look at stones. Are you familiar with stones?
Not in the polishing world. Um, I think about the only stone experience I have is the I don't know if you remember that pilot's survival knife that
Yep.
they used to that stone is about the only one I've ever used, and I
Okay.
don't think I was very good at it to begin with. So,
Well, the concept is the same. Now, stones are used. There's a difference between filing and honing, right?
okay.
Filing, we're removing. It's more aggressive. Even with the needle files, it's more aggressive, right? And so we're removing metal.
Yes.
Stone, on the other hand, is polishing that edge. It's reshaping. Like on a 1911, you're reshaping your uh, the sear, right?
Yeah.
So if like there's a nick in your sear, you'd use a jig and a stone to come in and re hone that edge so it grabs exactly the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
Um, stones, I, I I don't use them as much anymore, but so those are two different stones. They're different grits based on what you buy. This one's a medium grit, not that you can tell any difference, and this one's a more fine grit. Again, not that you can tell any difference, except that that's what it says on the bag,
Okay.
which goes to say, save your bags.
Yes.
Anytime you get something, make sure that you're either you're putting it into like a toolbox or some sort of organizer where things are labeled, or keep it in the packaging it came in, so that you always know what it is.
Okay.
It's really easy uh, to later on look at a tool and say, yeah, I remember that one, and I
Yeah.
bought that one, but I don't really remember what that one was for.
Okay.
Let me grab something else. Um, Connected to polishing, there are a couple of different tools for polishing. There's something that's called Cratex. You can get that from Brownells. You can also get it from Midway USA. Cratex is abrasive impregnated rubber that is in different grits. So for polishing your feed ramp, or um, coming in and breaking a curve. Um, I like to use them a lot on the inside of the chamber
Okay.
because it's rubber, um, it gives a real solid initial, polish, and then from there you can step it down. Now, those come in different grits based on color. So when you buy the Cratex kit, each one of the kits will tell you, or each one of the blocks will tell you what goes in each one, or
Okay.
what the grit is. Now, lapping compound is specifically used to take two pieces that aren't quite fitting together, right? And then work them where they actually 100% match.
Okay.
So, a place that you'll use this a lot is if you're fitting a slide on a 1911, right? So on the frame, you'll put lapping compound. On the slide, you'll put lapping compound on the rails. And you just work that back and forth until it has honed, those two pieces to that mirror finish
Okay.
together, right? Um, I bought a gunsmith special, which was a 1918 Luger and 30 Luger for $200
Okay.
because it wouldn't function. And the reason it wouldn't function is it needed to be lapped. So a few hours of elbow grease, and now I have a fully functional 1918 Luger and 30 Luger for $200. So
Can't beat that at all.
no. Um, Now the other thing that I'll use with this is I'll use the cotton polishing wheel for Dremel
Okay.
or whatever your tool happens to be. Um, and then I'll take that and I'll run it on a piece of sandpaper to make it whatever diameter I need it to be.
Okay.
I want it slightly oversized. And then, like this is 1,000 grit, and this one is 600 grit. So I would start with this one. I go ahead and it looks like grease.
Okay.
Okay, but it's abrasive grease. So I'll get that on that cotton uh, polishing wheel that's the size I want it, and then I'll put that inside the chamber and run it so that it's polishing inside, and then I'll do it again with the 1,000 grit, and then I'll take another one which is clean, and I'll use that to help clean out the inside and do that final polish. It
Okay.
is a great way to deal with rough chambers. And you familiar with the Zip 22?
No, not that I'm no. Oh, yes.
Okay, they don't work. As a
Okay.
general rule, they don't work. There's no extractor, there's no feed ramp. It's 100% blowback.
Okay.
100% blowback. So if you're not using high enough velocity ammunition, it won't come far enough back. And the chambers were notoriously too tight. This one works, but it
If you
works
lapped it.
because I went in and I cleaned up the chamber. I mean, I polished the snot out of it. And then I went
Hmm.
ahead, I put in a feed ramp, slight feed ramp, and polished that. And so because of that, this one will run. But that's abnormal.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Um, you got that set of screwdrivers.
Correct.
Um, I I like standard screwdrivers, but I also like the bit kits. So like Packmeyer makes a gunsmith screwdriver kit. There's any number of other ones that are out there that you can get. Those the difference between those and the bit kits that you would get at Lowe's or Home Depot or anywhere else um, is that they are specifically cut to match the screws that you're going to run into in gunsmithing.
Okay.
So they're perfectly flat on the bottom if they're a standard screwdriver. If it's a Phillips, they're specifically squared to fit inside your wood screws that you're going to run into. So it's worth it to invest in the money for the actual gunsmith screwdriver set because it will save you a lot of headache later on in
Okay.
regard to having to repair fasteners.
So I've been waiting the was it the Brownells Magnatip or something along those lines?
Yeah. Yep.
I've they've been out of stock for a while, but that was one thing that I've got set up on notifications to kind of get, but got a little overwhelmed with the different handles and then the different bits, and was like, "What? Can't you just sell everything all at once?" Or so
Yeah. I'll see if I can find a good kit, and I'll post a link for it
okay,
in the discussion post for you guys. Um, that hopefully will help.
okay,
Um, Now this one's nice because it's portable. So you have all your standard bits in here. This actually comes out, and so now I can,
oh nice,
yeah. So, you know, this is a tool I throw in my range bag. So
yeah,
I always have a set of screwdrivers because invariably I'm going to need it and I didn't have it and I'm going to be upset with myself. And so it's just better to plan ahead, right? But
yeah,
so things like this, while not 100% everything you're going to need, make a world of difference.
yeah.
Um, Dummy rounds. Are you a reloader?
Yes,
Okay. Um, so I'm a wildcatter as well as a reloader. I reload everything I shoot.
okay,
Every time, no matter how often I have used that press or I've used a set of dies, because once I have my dies set, I typically am loading the same projectile, so I'm
yes,
not really worried about it getting out of spec. I always run two dummies, always.
okay,
Now, um, does a couple of things for me. I also teach people to be firearms instructors. So I always have dummy ammunition in 40, 10 millimeter, 357 SIG, 9 by 10 HH, 45 gap, 380, all the calibers I load. I now have all of these dummy rounds that I've done. So I've always got, a collection for my firearms classes.
okay.
Uh, in my instructor classes, I give them to them. So, every instructor who comes through leaves with two of each, caliber so that they've got them
Oh,
for
nice.
purposes, whatever else. But if you'll take that dummy round that you did to check and make sure that your crimp is still the way you want it, all that kind of stuff, flip it over in your primer pocket, use hot glue, fill it up with hot glue, and now you have a snap cap for pennies instead of giving Packmeyer all your hard-earned dollars.
For 5 rounds.
Yes. Now, these I got through Amazon, and they're stainless steel 22 caliber long rifle. They
Okay,
come in packages of 12 for like $11. If you're doing any kind of work on a 22, you have to have dummy rounds because, um, and the only exception to this that I have ever come across is the Glock. But you never dry fire a 22 caliber long rifle, or for that matter, any rimfire cartridge, because you're going to end up peening the chamber over, and then it's not going to feed or load the way it's supposed to.
okay.
Okay, so for $11, get a pack of 12. And you've got them. I prefer the stainless steel over the plastic because they last longer,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So, just you always want to make sure that you have dummy rounds. Now, there is a difference between dummy rounds and action proving rounds.
Okay.
Uh, Dummy rounds are really designed to work in any gun of that particular caliber, right?
For like Sammy Specs and
Well, I, even being a little bit I'm going to say a little bit sloppy, meaning
Okay.
the they're tighter, meaning the case is compressed a little bit tighter. The projectiles probably pushed or seated a little bit below
Yeah.
cartridge overall length, because your 9mm and my 9mm may not be the same. So we want to make sure that whichever 9mm I throw it in, it's going to feed, right?
Okay.
Action proving cartridges are 100% SAMI spec.
Okay.
So, like, let's say you have a Winchester 3030 that was brought into you, and it was, somebody's granddad's, and, they're having issues with it feeding. Well, it may feed the dummy rounds that you buy, because the dummy rounds aren't exactly 100% SAMI spec on their design.
Okay.
Um, so for that, to check and make sure you're actually going to use 3030 action proving rounds. Um,
Okay.
and those you can order from Brownhouse.
Okay.
You don't need very many. You really one or two of each caliber is more than sufficient, or at least the calibers that you're going to come across. Um, but so that when everyone talks about using dummy rounds, well, dummy rounds are great, but there's that difference on the Smith side. If I want to check and make sure that the chamber's in spec, I need to use the action proving dummy. Um, and it never hurts to have a set of go, no go, and field gauges. Have you built your AR? Did you build your AR? I saw you bringing in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so did you use headspace gauges when you seated your barrel?
No, I did not.
Okay. Um, ARs, it's a little bit less of a concern. Um, but if you're doing anything with like a bolt action, doesn't matter who the manufacturer is, when you're going to do your head spacing, you have to have the go, no go, and field gauge to make sure that you're getting it seated to exactly the right depth.
Okay.
Okay. Um, they're not very expensive. I mean, I think cassette is $15-$20.
Yeah.
Again, on those, they're etched with what caliber they are and whether they're go or no go. What I tend to do is write on them in marks a lot, and then I paint the head uh, red, green, or yellow.
Okay.
Green for go, red for no
Yeah.
go, and yellow for field. Just because if it comes out of the tube and I'm trying to find it now, it's like I don't want to stick the wrong one in and set my barrel to the wrong distance.
Okay.
So that's no go gauges are a good tool. SDI sent you this hammer,
Correct.
um, and I have just a standard solid brass. Um, I like them both. Um, the idea of a brass hammer is that your chance of marring your surface if you were to miss is less, because brass is softer than steel. Um, Remember that when you're using your punches, because you're going to end up, cratering the surface when if you're using a steel punch on it,
Okay.
and we're using it with a steel punch, you're oftentimes better using the rubber end,
Okay.
or get you a steel hammer. Um, you know, uh, the two hammers that I've found most useful on the steel side is the small ball peen hammer that you can get at Lowe's,
Hmm.
and the tack driver. So the one that's more rectangular and thin. Um, I like those because it's a finer head.
Okay.
So I can be a little bit more intentional in what I'm hitting. Right.
Okay.
And just like steel versus brass has its own things. The reason why we have brass punches is, again, to try and not mar whatever the surface is.
Correct.
So if you don't have a sight pusher and you're going to drift your sights, always drift them with brass.
The brass. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you're running tritium, like night sights with tritium in them, you don't want to hit them
No.
because you actually break that tritium tube. Also, by the way, don't bake them after you Cerakote because the
Oh yeah.
tritium tube will come out. Just, you know, just in case you're thinking about giving that a go. I bought a couple of uh, 45 gap Glocks that were fire sales. I mean,
Hmm.
they were you know salvaged from a fire,
Hmm.
and I couldn't get the sights off. So I went ahead and painted them and baked them, and then I could get the sights off.
Oh, there you go.
So I mean, I knew I was going to lose the sights anyway, so I didn't care. But
Yeah.
something to pay attention to.
Okay.
So you want both brass and steel punches, which is why I was really glad they gave you the both of those in that
Yeah,
kit.
definitely.
Brass hammer. Um, Now punches we don't often think about are our roll pin punches. You have two kinds of roll pin punches. You have a roll pin starter punch that actually has a hole in the end of it.
Yes.
Okay. And then you have your driving punch. Your driving punch actually has a small tip to go inside the roll pin to allow you to drive it in.
Yes.
Uh, you need both.
Yes.
So if you don't have them, they sent me the same tools that you guys had. I didn't see any in there with them. Um, Midway USA has like a 12-piece kit that's not terribly expensive.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
got the Wheeler the driving ones. As far as like the starter one, there was like an AR kind of toolkit, like the detank kit that I was able to use just for that, and it worked.
sure, sure, it does. It
But yeah,
does.
I think I'm definitely in the market for getting a wider variety, just to for the different size roll pins and
Well, and it's kind of like buying parts. If I'm ordering detents for an AR, I never order one. I order like five, right? If I'm going to order a spring, I never order one. I order five. Um,
you know what's funny with that is obviously with building some they make an oops kit. Anderson had one, and then Brownells had one, and they were always out of stock, like absolutely always. So I ended up going to a local gunsmith who had, uh, a tackle tray full of, your little C clips and everything, and so now I have about 30 C clips, and I'm probably going to use them all.
oh my gosh, yes. Well, and I mean, stuff like that. At the cost, it's kind of like buying a magazine release spring for a Glock.
Hmm.
They're all the same. So buy five.
Yeah.
Because interestingly enough, you'll find other places to use it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, the spring inside. Um, oh, what's that other gun? There's a couple of other different guns that use that same spring. The Smith and Wesson uses the
Okay.
same spring, and I think the XD as well. So I mean, if I can make it work, I can make it work, right?
Yeah.
And you don't ever want to find yourself waiting on parts that
No.
was your fault to begin with.
Hmm.
All right. So pay attention to which of the brass you're using. Remember, if you're going to pry, brass is not always the best tool to pry with. It will bend. Uh,
Yes.
so you want to pay attention to that. I will tell you, if you ever break off the end of a steel punch, um, for instance, if you were trying to get out the magazine release on the P320 and you happen to break the end of your punch off in the tiny hole,
Hmm.
a real pain to,
Okay.
to try and fix. I don't know anybody who's done that ever.
Yeah. No,
No, that
hypothetically, of course.
and that was me, 100% me. I did it. I'll own it. Um, but so again, lessons learned, right? I mean,
Mhm.
uh, we don't without putting ourselves in a position to try and learn these things. Unfortunately, sometimes experience is the best teacher.
Yes, which is why there's also warning labels on everything. So,
Yep. Um, Glock tool. This tool is specific for your firing
channel
pin.
liner.
Yep.
So I don't have one of those, but I do have a wooden dowel that worked just fine. So
Yeah. What's nice about these is because you have that distinct lip on it, it drives in better.
yeah,
Uh,
no, 100% it would.
yeah. There is there always a workaround. You betcha.
Yeah.
Right. Um, but if you can get one, go ahead and buy one in metal.
Okay.
It's gonna last you longer. And if you start doing any of the coatings, KG, Cerakote, anything where you're baking it,
Hmm.
uh, you're going to have to replace the channel liner.
Okay.
So it's better to have the tool and only need it a couple of times than need the tool and your dowel rod broke.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, Something that we don't think about very much is a case extractor. So this is a case extractor for a 303 Brit, right?
Okay.
So what happens is if you end up with case head separation, right? So the case head split and you eject the case head, well, it leaves the rest of the body in. This is how you get that body out. So it goes
Okay.
in, you screw this in, this goes all the way into the neck, and it tightens down, and then it expands, grabbing hold of the case. Run your cleaner rod down the barrel, whack it with a hammer, and it'll drive straight out.
Okay.
Um, I will tell you, dental picks do not work on a 9 millimeter
Mhm.
ever. Okay, so if you find yourself with uh, a case head separation on a 9 millimeter and you don't have the extractor, it's a day-ending event on the range,
Yeah,
unless you have access to toilet paper.
I'm
Yep.
intrigued.
Yep.
Oh, 1 second. One
Okay.
second.
Yep.
Let me do. See you in the morning. Hopefully. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries. So you take toilet paper and you pack the ever living snot out of that case. Use a large punch. Pack it in there, keep packing 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 it in there, and then take your clean rod and whack it from the other end, and it'll come out.
Huh. Okay.
It's why
Good to know.
prisoners are limited with the amount of toilet paper they can have,
Yeah.
uh, because they will hang themselves with it.
Ah,
You don't think of that, but they can. So,
wow.
uh, yeah, yeah. Now, if you're going to fire form cases, so like if you wanted to load brass 410,
Okay.
um, you can use 303 Brit for that as well. Um, you know, put your primer in, put black powder in it, and then pack the ever living snot out of the rest of the case with toilet paper
Okay.
and fire it. It'll completely reform the shoulders. It'll take the shoulders completely out of the case.
Oh, huh.
So,
All right.
all right, blocks. Um, so this block, as you can see, has had a fair amount of wear and tear on it.
As it should.
Yeah, I like this block. I actually find it being round to be a pain. I don't know why. I just do. I would say if you're depending on what guns you're going to be working on, consider purchasing a block per gun. right? Like M&P, there's a specific block for the M&P. There's one for the AR. Look at those different blocks because, like with the AR block, it'll actually give you on the backside, it has a cutout that supports the standard A1 front sight
Okay.
so that you can drive out those pins.
Oh, no way.
Instead of trying to figure out how to hold it flat on here, we only have two hands
Yeah.
and hold it and the pin and the punch and the hammer um, is not much fun.
Yeah.
So um, always consider buying one specific for the platforms you think you might work on. This
Okay.
one by 10.8 is specific to the 1911.
Okay.
So these holes line up with your grip bushings. Um, this lines up with your plunger tube assembly. Uh, Over here, this one lines up with the pin for your ejector.
Okay.
So, like I said, this one is specific for 1911s.
Good to know.
So, yep. So you look at those blocks, and in regards to that.
Okay.
Uh, if you're doing a lot of 1911 work, this is your barrel bushing polisher.
Okay.
So this goes inside the slide. Uh, Actually, I have. So this actually goes in here to allow you to polish the inside of where that bushing goes. And that's how you fix if it's tight or if it's hanging up.
Okay.
That's how you polish that. And just use, whatever, just work your sandpaper from aggressive to fine. And that'll take care of that.
Now, would your lapping compound be not useful in that situation with the sandpaper? Or?
You can do that. I wouldn't use the lapping compound with the sandpaper itself.
Okay.
If you use a lapping compound, um, what I'm really probably going to do is end up using Kratex.
Okay.
The the problem you run into um, the problem you want to run into with the Kratex is because you've got this sharp edge here and that sharp edge here. If I'm polishing around, I'm going to end up tearing off. I'm going to break that corner.
Okay.
So I'll polish that corner out. The other thing is it's going to bite into that Kratex, that impregnated rubber, and I'm just going to eat through that. So
Okay.
while it's slower, you know, there's a reason why hand tools have a purpose, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Another tool specific to the 1911 uh, is your plunger tube staking tool. So this goes into the frame, and then this actually comes in on the other side. You line that tip with that hole and clamp it to flare that out to hold the plunger tube to your frame.
Oh, okay.
I learned that when I managed to shoot one off.
Another thing that only happens once.
Huh? Yep. Um, and then if you're running standard government sites, this is the front sight staking tool. So this actually goes inside here. So you put in your sight, bend it over, and then pound it flat.
Oh, okay.
You can see where the tail
Yeah.
on that, right? Uh, the Yama 380. Um, Same sight setup.
Okay.
So to replace this, you're going to need to get one specific for this particular model.
I got you.
Or get a dovetail cutter and change the front sight to a dovetail.
Yeah.
Um, Now, the next tool, um, this is a stuck choke tube removal tool. So, if you end up doing any kind of work on shotguns, these little buggers, people don't lubricate, and so you'll strip your cutouts here and here with the
Hmm.
wrench trying to get them out. I mean, you just
Yeah.
tear the snot out of them. Well, once you do that, the only way to get it out is with this. And so you drive that in just like a screw extractor.
Okay.
Drive it in and then get you a big old honking torsion bar and wrench and
Yeah.
get out. Um, Now, you notice the threads on this are super fine.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, Before I ever put a choke tube back in, I always put frog lube on it
Okay.
because I know the frog lube, I'm going to be able to get it all coated in on all the crevices. I know that it'll prevent it from seizing.
So does that, with using the frog lube on there, I mean, obviously you're going to use it liberally. The like a good day of like a dove shoot. I mean, is there much walking that would happen out of that or no? Okay.
But your threads are too fine.
Okay.
And again, remember we're talking smoothbore, right? So
Yeah.
if I were shooting rifled slugs, then I might get some because you're going to have that rotation of
Okay.
the side there. But if I'm just doing normal bird shot, no.
Okay.
And then yeah, they come in, they give you extras depending upon how aggressive you need to be.
How stuck or unstuck it is.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so a guy brought me the shotgun and said, I can't get this out. I said, okay, well, let me see what I can do. Yeah, I tried everything I could, and then I spent $25.
Fair enough.
So, where'd the cap go? Oh, there it is. All right. So, last tool or last two things that I highly recommend, just because it's going to make your life so much easier. Get you a good set of hooks. If you're friends with a dentist, they throw them darn things out all the time.
Okay.
Or the next time you go to the dentist, say, hey, instead of throwing out your old tools, can I have them?
Okay.
Right?
Now, is
Because
that the polymer or plastic one there?
it is. And
Okay.
it's okay. I mean,
I've broken every one I had, so
I like this edge for getting in underneath the 1911 on the rails and
okay.
inside. I need to clean that out because it fits really well inside here.
Okay.
You can really see what, yeah. So if I want to clean that, it works really well for that. Um, but I don't ever expect this to actually hold up to anything.
I got you.
I've got steel ones, for that. But make sure you have a good set of hooks. And you need the 90-degree angle, you need 45-degree angle, you need your shepherd's crook. I mean, they're worth their weight in gold.
Okay.
And then the last thing is locking hemostats.
Okay.
Um, Depending on what it is you're trying to hold, this will give you something to grab a hold of that rod that now you're trying to compress against a spring, and it gives you an extra set of hands because I can let go of this and I haven't actually lost anything.
Yeah.
So A set of 8 of these different sizes on Amazon is $12. It's worth every bit of the
Okay.
20. So, all right. So that kind of goes through all of the tools I wanted to show you. Do you have any questions?
Um, I guess going forward in this lab or in this particular course, what so I haven't submitted my my first discussion. I was going to do that next after this.
Yeah.
What exactly were you for, and what is kind of our final assignment? Or
Okay. So, like this week, one of your assignments is, talking about the research you're going to do for your detailed strip, right? Um,
okay,
One and week two are preparation for week four, which is that detailed teardown.
okay,
Okay. Now, detailed strip, what does that mean? That means take the gun as far as down as far as you are comfortable doing so, right?
okay,
If you're going to take apart a Remington 700, you don't have to remove the barrel.
okay,
Okay? And that's just not necessary. Um, you know the um, if you're um, taking apart a handgun, you don't have to um, actually just take the sights off. I'm not asking somebody to change your sight arrangement, right?
yeah,
And it's same thing like if you had your stock. I'm not gonna ask you to your scope. I'm not gonna ask you to take your scope off because you got it set for you, right?
yeah,
But if you're working on a bolt gun, take apart the bolt.
okay,
Now, if you're not comfortable tearing into the trigger package, then don't tear into the trigger package. If you are, tear into it.
okay,
Um, and I do these every week. So, if there's a gun that you want me to tear into, um, you know, let me know. If I have it or if I have one that's similar, part of this video session will be going in and doing that detailed strip so that you guys can see it being done. So you've got that reference for the future.
okay,
Okay? Uh, the so so the first part of that is the research you're doing, getting ready for it. The second part is simply showing me how do you make it clear, right? So it shouldn't be a very long video. It's, hey, I'm going to lock the action back. I'm going to make sure that it's the met, just take me through that process.
okay,
And then, as we move forward, you're going to get in more detail. So it'll be conducting a function check because once you put it back together from your detailed strip, you're going to want to do a function check to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to.
okay,
So it's a stair step each one of the weeks in preparation for that.
okay. Fair enough. So the this discussion post is looking at the different resources that we would find for like parts and field stripping or stripping and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's like so I'm gonna do. Some guy last class did a AR-15 styled Han Solo blaster and and 22 long rifle, and it bought it as a kit and put it together, but no lie,
Uh-huh.
it looks like the Han Solo blaster without you
That's
having to
awesome.
tear it into a C96 broom handle. But so for him, since he built that, he already had the resources. Another guy last class tore into a revolver.
Okay.
It never, outside of doing standard cleaning, had never actually broken off the side plate. Um, so, again, do what you're most comfortable doing, and don't go beyond what your level of comfort is. But I'd encourage you to push yourself a little bit.
100%. I was just thinking like I wanted to do like this Glock 19, just because it's something that I carry. And then I had like a 320, and then I was thinking of the AR that I built, and I was like, well, I can find most of that information online. But my wife got a Marlin 22 that is Lord knows how old, and I have not been able to get that thing to accurately fire. So I think for this instance, I would like to get that one to be more familiar with it.
Sure.
And I think, yeah, I think that's the route I'm gonna go. So
Is it a pistol, rifle?
it's a rifle, semi-auto,
Okay. Tube fed or magazine fed?
magazine, detachable magazine.
Yeah. So, I would definitely encourage you to work on that. And again, if you want to get together prior to week 4, just schedule a time with me. I am more than happy to sit on a video session with you, and I can watch you. I can we can talk about what you're doing. As my dad says, hey, I need you to come over and help. He doesn't need my help. He just wants somebody to talk it through with.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's part of my job. My job is to be that resource for you guys. So whatever
Okay.
you need.
No, I appreciate that. And with this first set of classes that we had, I wasn't sure exactly what we were getting into with SDI, but
Okay.
I really appreciate this. This is refreshing, and it's nice to actually be able to talk some things out, and I really appreciate it. So
My pleasure. I I love doing this. This is playtime for me. So
pay time, a little paycheck, right?
yep, yep. Well, and actually, we get done here. I'm gonna go do. I have a mold I've done for lost wax casting of a AR-15 upper receiver. So I'm gonna go melt out the wax so I can pour in brass. I
Wow.
want to I want to build a brass AR, upper and lower receiver,
Yeah,
AK-47 lower receiver, so I can actually use AK mags in 7.62 by 39 with forest camo laminate stocks.
that's gonna be a wild looking gun.
Yep, I, just because I want to.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. That's awesome.
So if whatever the this first run of the Lost Wax casting looks like, I will post a picture so you guys can see it.
Yeah. No, I'm actually looking forward to that. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Thanks. But yeah, don't ever seriously, man, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are leery about disturbing the professor. Man, I don't sleep, so I mean, feel free to send a text. If I'm awake, I'll respond. If I'm not awake, I'll get to it the next morning. But I really am a resource for y'all. So
Okay. Well, I greatly appreciate that. And I will definitely reach out with questions, and I definitely gonna jump out of my comfort zone with that rifle. I it's been all Glocks, 320s, and ARs. So I've got some bolt guns, like a 700, and but yeah, it's all right.
awesome. Yeah,
That works.
let's make that sucker run like a beast.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
All
I
right, my
can't
friend.
wait. All right. Well, I appreciate it very much, and thank you for your time. And I hope you have a good rest of the evening.
You too. Take care, Michael.
All right. Take care. Bye.